I just love fighting, and I want to do it at a good level for as long as I can. It's not like about money or anything like that for me. It's just about because I love to fight. It's what I do, and you know what? I love entertaining people, and I am never rude. I'm hardly ever in a dull fight. I've got it. Like, it's the best drug you can ever have is when you win a fight and you get your hand raised at the end. And I just want to keep entertaining the crowds and keep having good, exciting, hard fights that everyone enjoys for as long as I can. I just come to Four Corners Gym to work on my boxing, really. I've been working with John on and off for about 3 or 4 years now, but mainly like the last 2 years I've made it like, instead of it just being the odd session here and there, I come twice a week religiously when I'm fighting. He's like the best boxing coach I've ever worked with, and now that I'm fighting for one championship and you're fighting the small MMA gloves, my boxing has to be a lot more on point, so I'm just making sure that my hands are always sharp, and I'm just getting that extra work in over here with John. I try and make it as intense as possible for myself when I'm on the pads, because it builds my fitness. And when you're fighting, you're not going to bother throwing half-assed shots with no power. I want to be able to throw as many hard shots for as long as I can when I'm fighting, so that's just the way I train. I try and make sure it's as intense as possible. I'm always going 100%, and then when it comes to fight time, there's going to be no doubts in my head that, oh, am I not fit enough, or what if I'm not fit enough, what if I get tired in round 2 or 3 or whatever, do you know what I mean? So it's just all about mindset again, that. Well, when I was learning my trade and growing up, I was fighting every other weekend in working men's clubs filled with fucking smoke and all sorts like that. But I was doing it just to get the experience. I was literally fighting once every 3 weeks against anyone who got thrown in for. There were no picking or choosing, there were no social media, there were no YouTube to go looking at your fighters and getting yourself all worked up. My boss just could come in the gym and say, right, you're fighting in 2 weeks. Who against? Don't matter. And that's how it was. So there were none of this or looking at, like, a lot of fighters these days were going on YouTube and, oh, he's won his last 2 fights by knockouts, and they'll start talking themselves out of it. I've promoted shows before, and I've had fighters on and say, look, I've got a match here. He's had 5 fights, your guy's had 4 fights, similar experience. And they'll go on YouTube or Instagram and they'll look at his last 3 fights. We've won them all, we're not fighting him. You couldn't do that back then. You just got in there and you just fought whoever were throwing at you. That's the same as when I went to live in Thailand. You didn't know who you were fighting. Who am I fighting? Doesn't matter. What gyms are from? It doesn't matter. All they tell you is if it was Southpaw or Orthodox, and that's all you need to know. Obviously these days, yeah, it's good for the fighters that they're getting a lot of exposure on bigger shows, but they're not getting that experience. I mean, everyone, like, there's a lot of good fighters who can kick, punch, knee and elbow all the same as everyone else. So when you're in there with someone who's matched physically as well as you, it's going to come down to experience. So if you haven't got them championship rounds in, or you haven't got like that number of fights, you might only have 10 fights, fighting someone who's had 70 fights. When it comes down to it, if you're evenly matched, the experience is going to win every time. So you need to be trying to fight as regular as possible, really, and just trying to get that experience. But like I say, a lot of it that we all had back then, that you can't do that anymore. Just fight every weekend and try and get your name out there. It's tough to do it now. I went my first 29 pro fights unbeaten, and I didn't lose till I fought a top level Thai. So I could have just kept fighting Europeans, and I probably could have got to 40 or 50 fights unbeaten if I'd have kept fighting at that level. But what good's that to anyone? I don't want to be like, you know, the guy who just pads out his record and fought at like that low level. I wanted to fight at the best level on earth, and yeah, there's like 20 odd losses on the record, but there's still nearly 90 wins. There's 8 world titles, and that's because I was fighting at the best level there is out there. And like I said, I could have just made it. I could have probably got to 50 and 0, just sticking at fighting at the European level and stuff like that. But what's the point in that?
Nice. Put the book on that last one.
Lockdown's been hard because when that first lockdown came, my body was just seizing up. I was injured badly from my previous fight as well. I split both my shins in my fight and I got infected massively. I couldn't train for 2 months. So sitting around for 2 months and got no it all. Then sitting around for another 2 months because the gyms were shut. I couldn't run or anything because my legs were infected from the splits in my shin. So that I thought, I just used to think, how on earth am I going to come back from this? 4 months doing nothing. I'm 35 years old. What am I going to do here? But it was tough, I won't lie to you. I was just dragging. I was in a bit of a slump. I was depressed with how everything was, knowing that I'm at 35 and people are taking like these last few years are taking time off me. It was hard to get over it, and to be honest, I'm still struggling a bit with it now. But you just got to get on with it, drag yourself up, drag yourself to the gym, and just push through and realise that it's not going to last forever, and there are going to be some fights at some points, and I just need to keep myself fit and sharp and be ready for when that happens. I'm motivated. I'm just very motivated. I just like to keep myself busy. That's one of the things that I did during lockdown to keep myself busy. Started my own clothing brand. I've started my podcast. I've got a decent YouTube channel that I'm just trying to grow now as well. I've got loads of stuff going on. So yeah, that's what I like to do. I like to keep myself busy. I like to keep myself motivated, because even if I can't fight, at least there's other aspects in my life that I can try and push forward and try and grow. Well, as long as this shit calms down, I want to get back in the ring, and then I want to push towards a shot at the one championship title. I've won all the best titles outside of Thailand there is, so to win that before I retire, that'd be a dream come true.